Okay, first off, I might as well start this off with an introduction. My name is Trenton, and until recently, I worked at one of the number of top secret facilities studying dreams. Ours, though, in specific studied the darker side of dreaming, nightmares. Now you may find it a bit ridiculous when I tell you exactly what we are doing in this field. I don't blame you. So did I, but a okay, so did I, but a paycheck was a paycheck and I told myself, even if my employees seemed a bit whack, so I took the job. Secretly detail security detail, sorry, at the local mall was getting a bit boring. Anyway, the job requirements were surprisingly low, so that, along with the pay raise and change of scenery, seemed like a good deal to me at the time. A deal I wish I'd never made. Now I don't don't get me wrong, the job itself was a breeze and my new employer was great to all of us as long as you could put up with the various doctors and techs running around the place like coffee-driven ants spouting technical jargon only they understood. But you learned pretty quick to just keep out of their way. They wouldn't spare us security personnel a second glass most of the time. My job was easy. Sometimes it seemed too easy, even when there was actually shit to do. At least until they moved me into the box. The box was where the magic happened, so to speak. A large containing a large room containing a big, thick, bulletproof glass chamber with an airlock door at the front and just enough room for a person to walk around its perimeter. The room was connected by various wires and tubes, even a small monitor display wedged in one of the corners of the glass box, to another, a much smaller room. It was this second room where some of our clients were taken. The second room only contained two items: a strap in chair similar to a dental chair, and a large, complicated machine that took the whole back wall, connected both to the chair via a headset and the box next door with a tangle of tubes and wires. I actually found this setup and it's really quite interesting after the initial shock and disgust of being sent into the box. To hit one of the few buttons on the wall by the inside of the door to douse a naturally large spider use. Okay. I've gotten lost in the sentence. Sorry. I actually found the setup and its results quite interesting after the initial shock and disgust of being sent into a box to hit one of the few buttons on the wall by the inside of the door to douse an unnaturally large spider in some debilitating gas and drag it out to a waiting cart a few minutes waiting for its frantic scrabbling at the glass immediately in front of me to cease. You see, we didn't just study nightmares there, we brought them to life. Hold on one second. Sorry, I had help with the kids, they lost one. No, I don't know what would possess anyone to want to buy up a large dog sized arachnid, perhaps by. Okay. You see, we didn't. Sorry. I'm going to start where I think I left off. This is all going wrong because I just got attacked by a kid.
It's
You
okay.
see,
Wait. Take a deep breath. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath.
okay, I don't normally mess up like this, but
I know. You're just nervous. It's okay. Go ahead.
yes, I thought I had help with the kids. This isn't working right. Next time, I'm going to ask him to make sure he keeps them.
Yeah.
You see, we didn't just study Nightmare there, we brought them to life, and off they went to the highest bidder after a few days in a holding cell where the lab scientists studied their newest monstrosity and its limits and habits. No, I don't know what would possess anyone to want to buy up a large dog-sized arachnid. Perhaps they defanged them like snakes and kept them as pets. Or Hollywood was getting bored with crappy CGI and unrealistic props and robots, and were using them for their latest horror blockbusters. I didn't ask, and they never told. All the locals knew was that this was the place to go to get rid of your worst and most persistent nightmares, and it worked. Recently, though, the boss has been pushing for turning away from your typical arachnophobes and other common terror victims in search of more exotic beings. Humanoid figures were gaining ground with some of our other clients. The buyers and we'd already made a killing off of small family groups of our typical shambling, rotting zombies. So that's where we focused our attention. We used our aptly and simply named nightmare machine to collect a few more zombies and toothy, eyeless monstrosities, only vaguely human, one creepy, grinning dog for old time's sake, and a few shadowy black figures that proved difficult to round up and chip off due to their somewhat ethereal forms. At least that's what they told me to explain one of the damn things falling through the cart, trying to wander off as it started to regain consciousness before we could get it back on top of the damn thing instead of inside it. Our standard containment measures proved enough to handle them, though. Once we got them safely moved, but that minor breach should have been enough warning of what was to come to stop the program right there. Of course, it didn't. It wasn't going to stop until the money stopped flowing, and that's all the boss got to caring about anymore until someone stopped it for him. I know I should have bailed right then and there, but something urged me to stay. Maybe a bit of growing greed had begun to infect me too, or maybe some part of me dis that had become disenchanted with this whole twisted operation longed to see it all go up in flames. I guess it really doesn't matter now, though. What's done is done, and I don't think I'll ever have an answer for what happened last. Yesterday, out like any other day, another little boy was brought in by hopeful parents looking to rid her child of his fears and went and sent them back home after a short session in the chair while I went to fetch brand new pair of zombies. Hilariously undead versions of the mother that just walked out and presumably the kid's father. I couldn't stop but laugh at the thought of their reactions if they ever came face to face with their son's undead versions of them as I lured them out of the box with a small cut of raw steak and quickly looped ropes around each of their torsos to pin down their grasping arms like some parody of a cowboy so they could be flipped headfirst into the waiting cart and hauled off before our next client arrived. Zombies were always easy money, slow, stupid, and always classic. I waved the gaping things off as I returned to my post in the doorway of the machine and waited for the next round. Our next and soon to be last client was a bit older than I was used to seeing. Although her age wasn't completely unheard of showing up here on rare occasion, the girl in question was young, typically blonde, accompanied by both her parents. I don't pay much attention to any of our clients by this point, though I hardly noticed her turning her head nervously to look behind her almost impulsively a few times as the group led by Dr. Reed shuffled past me into the small room, almost missing her final glance back before returning and whispering to her mother. They can make him go away, right, Mom? She, of course, shushed her with quiet reassurances as she shepherded her past me, and the doctor backed her up. Why, yes, of course we can. That's what we're all here for today. He grinned widely and pushed her towards the chair, continuing to speak before anyone else had the chance. Now just sit right here and I tuned him out, having heard this speech thousands of times over by now, just waiting on the newest baddie to be siphoned from another person's imagination so I can wrap him up nice in a nice and shiny bow and clean up for the day. I'd be collecting my paycheck and going home to open up a can of bear to keep up company while I shifted through the local channels before calling it a day and heading to bed. I was thinking about this simple yet effective plan when Reed broke me out of my reverie with a nod towards the large padded door just down the hall as he shepherded the trio out and back towards the impressive lobby of the building, signaling me to get to work on today's last order. Admittedly, what waited me behind the door in the box wasn't exactly what I was expecting, and what I think anyone else was. What I mean is, well, it looked just too human. The thing appeared to be a young man, probably in his 30s, sporting an all brown classic cowboy outfit complete with spurred boots and hat. There were, however, a few dissimilarities between the thing and a regular human being. One was his unnaturally coal black skin, another his blood red eyes that almost seemed to glow with a strange malicious light. Another thing I noticed about it was its grin. It stood there with a whimsical, almost comical expression on its face, still a statue. I couldn't even think the thing was breathing until between its left lips I could catch a sharp, jagged, predatory teeth. Definitely not the kind I wanted digging into my flesh anytime soon. I shuddered at the thought as I turned away to hit a couple of buttons on the wall console, inputting standard procedures for neutralizing shadow creatures for transportation. After a moment's deliberation, obviously, I didn't know what it actually was, but the black skin and red eyes were standard of the classification. Although those clothes definitely weren't, but I did my best with what I had to go off of. After waiting the few minutes arbitrar- arbitrarily standardized for ensuring the required effects for transportation took place, I turned back to the box and froze. The damn thing hadn't budged an inch. Now, I weakly laughed, mumbling to myself that perhaps the monster was broken, but approached the airlock in the front of the box nonetheless. This happened a few times already with creatures that apparently hadn't been granted the knowledge of gravity by their maker before being cast away, so after a few thoughtful seconds still without change, I figured I'd just have to lug the thing out of there like an awkward cardboard cutout and hand it over to the day's collector. I only glanced down for a second to reach the door's handle when I realized something had finally changed. I stared horrified at the thing as it appeared much closer to the door, no longer in the box center where it had been spawned into the world from that of imagination. It had the biggest damn smile I'd ever seen on its face. The malice was palpable. As it stared me down, an evil imp's glint in its eyes before it was simply gone. I jumped at the suddenness of it, looked frantically about for the thing. but it was nowhere to be found in the container, as if simply blinked back out of existence again after only a short stay. Now, this was the thing about our nightmare machine. What had made it so dangerous about beginning long before I'd been hired? We couldn't uncreate what it had brought to life. Yes, we could kill it, turning it most beings into black fog that quickly dissipated if needed, but they just never ever disappeared. My mind was still reeling from the new information. Uh, when the lights flickered and I heard the first scream, dear God, had it somehow escaped and attacked someone, or worse? Worse being it had let someone else out to play, and we had plenty of choices accumulated over the years. Zombies, big spiders, had long ago become playthings in light of some of the monstrosities. It was no wonder we had no buyers for it. Some were too monstrous, while others too dangerous to chance letting out of our careful care. I pulled my small standard pistol out of its holster as a large white creature burst into the room, trailing blood from its too large maw and letting out a too human screech as it immediately received a bullet to its skull. I never liked those fuckers anyway. Damn carnivorous rabbits. A moment later, I raised my gun towards the hallway ceiling as I heard the scutter of many legs moving rapidly down the hallway from the direction of the cages. A huge black centipede, like a creature with a single big blood red eye, dropped down and gone just as quickly, a pool of fresh blood, the only remaining sign of the monster rabbit's bulk. I quickly backed right into the box behind me, wishing to put as much distance between me and the unfolding hell right outside the open door. Wishing now I'd closed it behind me even once in my time here, when the thing I knew had started all appeared in front of me, and suddenly as it had vanished only a couple minutes prior. I tried to lurch to the side, determined to not be pinned to the glass at my back, the thing, but it caught me easily mid step, almost as if nothing more than a disobedient child, and grinned again at me with those gleaming white shark's teeth before the world tilted. Dazed, I looked around, confused for a second before realizing two things. One, that I was now myself inside of impenetrable glass box, and the other that I couldn't breathe. I bent over, gasping for air, but that wasn't where I looked up at the thing now standing by the door, fiddling with the same controls know I now know it had watched me use minutes prior to its escape and willed myself to stay conscious. It seemed like an eternity before the creature appeared to make up its mind, hitting a button. I winced at the sudden hiss of air, certain it had made up its mind to find more creative ways of killing me than suffocation. When I realized I could breathe again, the bastard had reopened the air vents to the chamber and now turned to me, taking a dramatic bow, grinning wider than ever before blinking back out of existence, leaving me with nothing to do other than sitting here with a in this god awful prison and watch the occasional monstrosity wander by, paying me and the room no attention. The now muffled screams of my dying co-workers and rare bloodied body scrambling desperately for the exit ended soon enough. I'm sitting here now with the same annoying ass shadow figure from the last week that had fallen through the cart staring me down through the glass. Its skewed logic won't let it phase through. Thinking it must really be it must be really lonely individuals that buy these creepy things up to stare at them and night long all day and night long and get uncomfortably close whenever they feel you're no longer paying attention to them when the piece of shit himself appeared. Suddenly, I almost wish the dark, nearly featureless creep beside me could get into the box without an open door because I'd take the otherwise harmless paranoia inducing shadow figure over that too. Human brown body suit clad monster any day. Now that right there is a real monster. Not like the attention grabbing bother lingering around the corner of the box trying to press claustrophobically close to my warm living form are any of the various animalistic creatures now roaming the halls. At the end of the day, they really were just animals, grotesque and oversized, but animals. This creature, on the other hand, is just patiently standing there with an evil intelligence gleaming behind its unnatural, burning coal eyes, an intelligence no one ever seen before any other monstrosity produced here to date. It's the look of being known it's alive, worse, knows what it's doing is terrible and enjoys the suffering it created. I've been sitting here shaking for probably the last 10 minutes as I typed this up on my phone, and it stood there unblinking, unbreathingly the whole fucking time. I don't know what it wants with me or why it wouldn't let me die with everyone else last night, but I'm more scared than ever by just how patient it seems to be. Like it's politely waiting for me to finish and hit send so I can unveil the next horror uninterrupted. It seems to want to say something, so I'm about to put down my phone and finally face this nightmare head on. I hope whoever picks this up will know what to do with it. I know most of the other facilities I know of have been shut down or destroyed by now, but not all of them. I hope the emergency locks worked and it doesn't open them up too before someone can firebomb the whole cursed place. Shit, I wish I had more time to shout out a few people close to me, but I swear it's getting closer now. I'll leave with this warning. If you hear about a new cure for bad dreams or a place that can bring an end to all your nightmares, don't go to them. Move out of the area before it's too late. I'm sorry, everyone. Goodbye.